Good morning from Detroit, Michigan. Today we're coming at you from the Henry Ford. We're going to check out the Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation as well as the Greenfield Village. I go by the legend. That is my wonderful girlfriend Molly. I haven't researched this too thoroughly, but I've heard really good things, so I'm excited to go see what's inside. So when you enter the Welcome Center, it's pretty neat. You got like a recreation of a Wright brothers plane up here. And this is where you can buy your tickets for the various attractions that are offered. There's also like a solar-powered race car. We'll say the entrance building is very classical, kind of like a fancy colonial building.
Yeah, I love the details in the ceiling and the chandelier.
So here's a map of the museum. Pretty much it's like everything on the right half is all kind of transportation based, and the left half is going to be more innovation based. And definitely a cool building. I gotta imagine there's going to be tons of stuff to see. Greeted with a full-size airplane dead ahead. Let's go check things out. Of course, there had to be a lot of car stuff here at the Henry Ford Museum. Next exhibit is Driving America, the impact of cars on our lives. The exhibit starts with two very, very different cars. A 1959 Cadillac convertible, and then the GM first generation self-driving test car. I cannot wait for self-driving cars to become a thing. Someday. Exhibit starts with like their options before there were cars, including horse-drawn carriages and things like that. And I do love this as we pan over here. I love this neon, old-timey giant McDonald's sign. Yeah,
for like drive-in 50s.
Yeah. You have a White Castle stained glass as well.
A&W.
Oh man, and they've got Happy Meal toys. Those were some of my favorite McDonald's Happy Meal toys ever. These little transforming, I had all of them. I think the guy on the right was hotcakes, and obviously one on the left was French fries. Not open during our visit today. They do have a whole 50s diner that serves food. And this exhibit, as you expect, is filled with all sorts of antique and old-timey automobiles. And the cars just keep on going and going and going. Essentially creating more or less a timeline of, cars from the beginning to now. This next exhibit is Your Place in Time, 20th Century America. Start the exhibit here with a car from 1917. Kind of neat as well. You've got a moving picture theater mock-up of an old-time silent movie theater or Nickelodeon from 1907. Might be a little tricky to see, but this is a giant scrim effect with like a record player and stuff behind it, and you can push buttons.
Of the type of music that you can hear throughout the century.
So the exhibit's kind of like you're walking through the carousel of progress as you're essentially going through time throughout the 20th century. Got all sorts of stuff, war stuff, a mock-up of like what a living room would have looked like as they listened to the War of the Worlds in 1938. Oh, and like I guess various toys and stuff like that.
Hollywood
souvenir store. And what a newsstand would have looked like.
It's a really creepy Shirley Temple doll.
All right, get one of these for Molly for her birthday. I'll put it on the list. We have made it to the 50s here. It's a mock-up of school, and they're doing the duck and cover drill. And then you've got this kind of communal living house from 1973 inside a geodesic dome. Oh, and this is neat. It's like the evolution of TV from the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. We continue to move along. We've got things like Pong, this awesome Snoopy phone. And you've got the Atari 2600. That's pretty snazzy looking. And then all sorts of stuff over here. Oh man, they even got Furbies. Look at the Furby. And next to the Ataris, they actually have it. They've got Atari's E.T., the extraterrestrial, also known as like the worst video game ever made. We're now in what a teenager's bedroom would have looked like in 1987. You can see the big giant floppy disks. Of course, all teenagers would have a Big Bird stuffy plushie. Lady stuff in there. A very messy bed. A really neat collection they have here is a collection of the president's cars. You got Teddy Roosevelt's 1902, and then it continues all the way down there. This might be my favorite of the president's cars. This is Dwight D. Eisenhower's Bubble Top. One of the most historical pieces in the museum. This is John F. Kennedy's car, and the one he was assassinated in. The next exhibit should be interesting. This is With Liberty and Justice for All, the enduring struggle for freedom. So I'm guessing this is the kind of the sections of this exhibit. You got American independence, freedom and union, votes for women, and civil rights. It's neat. It's an original copy of the Stamp Act from 1765. And then it's a well done exhibit. You got all the different sort of go into a faux pub here.
But I've not seen one that has worked up such a change in the minds
of
men.
It's not focusing.
As many read, many become converted to the idea of independence. Though but
well, I guess the bartender is talking to you about
any suggestion
what the guests are talking about.
With Britain.
It's kind of neat. This is not only a folding bed, but a folding camp bed that was used by George Washington.
Yeah. Now his tin was set up in the war.
Yeah. Do a section over here with about Abraham Lincoln, including his life mask. That's weird. One of the most historical pieces here at the Ford Museum. This was Lincoln's chair he was assassinated in the Ford Theater. Definitely a piece of history there.
Yeah, definitely.
The next section does focus on segregation, so you have different waiting rooms and water fountains. Another one of the most historical pieces here at the museum. This bus here was the famous Rosa Parks bus. This exhibit here, one of the newer ones in the museum, Driven to Win Racing in America. I like the old-timey one out front here. That is wonderful.
1901.
And from the very old to the very new, you got a more modern race car here. I'm enjoying this exhibit with all these kind of like, I guess, toy race cars. There is some sort of a multimedia Driven to Win theater that does films. Could be pretty neat. This exhibit is all about land speed racing, a very different kind of racing. And you got a couple different ones, including Goldenrod. It's from 1965 and held the land speed record for over 25 years.
That's cool.
And as expected, they have a whole bunch of race cars here. You can definitely tell this exhibit feels a little bit more modern than other ones in the museum. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of auto racing, so I can't tell you what all these cars or racers are. But it is well done. An exhibit here about some old-timey drag racing. For a couple bucks, you could try your hand at one of these driving simulator video games. Of course, there is a NASCAR. And then this would be cool. They're not not running it right now, but I believe this is an interactive experience where you could see what it's like to go through a pit change for a NASCAR event. In this exhibit here, I guess we're going to tour the dymaxion house, a new way of living for 1946. Now you might be asking yourself, why buy a round house? Well, it's the smart thing to do. This is indeed quite the house.
Something else.
It is pretty fascinating. This room would not have been very pretty. I guess this would have been where the laundry unit is. Heroes of the Sky is the next exhibit, all about aviation. Starting off with the Model T of the Sky. Fun looking little airplane from the 1926. Pretty neat here. This was Henry Ford's airplane. The Tin Goose.
It definitely looks like it was made of tin.
Yeah. This one's pretty neat. This is a recreation, I believe, of the Wright brothers plane. Full size. This plane here is from a 1926 Arctic expedition. And you can see like it's got essentially snow skis on it.
Not getting up enough speed on his eyes.
Really fun exhibit here, all about kind of stunt planes and carnival planes and things like that. Fun exhibit here where it shows you what it would be like to be a wing walker and standing on the wing of an airplane. Molly, this would not be for you.
No.
This next exhibit is all about Mathematica. Fun fact, a little legend when he was young, one time at Thanksgiving said he was thankful for math. I'll never live that down.
It's kind of nerdy.
It's kind of a neat feature here showing off probability and where these balls are likely to land. Kind of fascinating to watch. More moving stuff here. This is to show off minimal surfaces and using bubbles. This weird looking light up cube is a multiplication machine. And it's also kind of mesmerizing. Not sure if this is going to work on camera or not, but this shows off conic sections. It does! It's trippy in there. This is a demonstration of celestial mechanics. And you could wave your hand over there to release a ball. Although I think they all might be spinning right now.
I think so too.
Another one that's kind of mesmerizing to watch. These pieces of machinery here are demonstrating the random walk. This kind of cool interactive feature is showing off a Mobius strip. That's fun.
That is.
We have a section of the museum here dedicated to, I'm guessing it's all like antique farm equipment. We do have some neat stuff, like this was built around 1900. And then just, more giant old-timey farm equipment as well. So this will definitely be one of my favorite things I saw in the museum here. It is an Oscar Meyer Wienermobile from 1952. It's amazing. They also have some really cool retro Wienermobile merchandise, including the Wiener whistle and a Wienermobile watch. This section here is all about Made in America power. So I'm guessing like different types of energy and things of that nature. This giant machine here was a steam engine from about 1855. This one moves, so that makes it neat. An Edison General Electric Company. big old machine. Got a big windmill right there. And just tons and tons of machines in this area. There's also a large selection of like antique guns. Got a fun interactive thing here where you can connect any two items in the museum. So Molly picked something out. I've got the Mr. Peanut whistle. And pick out something we want to connect to Mr. Peanut's whistle here. Alright. Damage.
I didn't know this was one to be so long.
Here, we're going to connect it to this. Now, how do you connect them? I don't know how we do this. Okay, we can't figure this out.
We'll be back.
Next exhibit is Made in America. And this is pretty cool. I like this a lot. It looks like, yep, this is an exploded Model T. And that is fascinating. It's really kind of a random exhibit. You've got everything from old sewing machines to that old-timey wacky bicycle to over here it's braiding and printing press machines. This building here is a recreation of the shoe shop from 1890. There is a gallery showing off all sorts of locomotives as well, including this one with a giant snowplow.
1923.
Yeah. It is quite the museum here. I'm guessing these are like cable car kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then over here you got more fancy cars. There is a wonderful model train display set up right next to this insanely gigantic locomotive. The next exhibit is fully furnished, a fresh perspective on furniture. And furniture might be a stretch, as this is something I found really cool. This is a kiosk from the IBM Pavilion at the 64 World's Fair. This one's pretty interesting. It's like a mobile stove patio barbecue cart from the 50s. This exhibit here is all kind of ancient stoves. Very ornate, very detailed in a lot of these.
Radiators and heaters.
Huh?
Radiators and heaters.
Ah, I said stoves. I was way off.
You did say stay.
This furniture section is all sorts of chairs and dressers and mostly chairs and dressers and cabinets. Probably my favorite thing here in the furniture section, it's an exploded lounge chair and ottoman. Now we're going to spend some time checking out Greenfield Village, which I believe is kind of like a colonial Williamsburg type living museum kind of area. And it's an upcharge. There's different separate ticketed things, so you can just buy a ticket to the museum, you just buy a ticket to the village. There's also a factory tour, as well as an IMAX type movie, and all of these can be, combined or uncombined, depending on what you want to do. Before you head into the village, there's a beautiful fountain. So we made it inside the village, and there's all sorts of different things in here, including a soybean experimental laboratory. So there's lots of stuff in this soybean laboratory. And it's also air conditioned in here, which I was not expecting.
No, nice.
I believe we are headed towards the farm. And if you look over here, there's some sheep.
All cuddled together.
Mm-hmm.
One giant huddle.
And of course, with it being a farm, there's a farmer doing some farming. They also have cows on the farm.
Moo.
The cows are smart. They're hanging in the shade. So this might be my favorite. We're now inside a barn, and there's little baby sheeps. Oh, look how cute you are. And of course, the farm would have to have a horse. So I'm gonna see if they're gonna do it, and they're making. There it is, cute baby sheep noise. That's adorable. There is also a train you could ride. I am not sure if the train is an upcharge or not. A very pretty looking train. And this is the Cider Mill. Would have been cool if they had like cider for sale here in the Cider Mill. Now made it over to a different portion of the village.
Liberty Craft Works.
Liberty Craft Works.
The weaving shop, pottery shop, a printing office. Glass.
Here we are inside the pottery shop.
Look at it.
This building here is the
We do a
printing
proof
office.
copy. You guys ever know what proofing means? You check it to make sure it's right. We would do it.
This cool building here is for the glass shop. They do have a store where you can buy a lot of the glass and pottery and things like that that are made here in the village, which is kind of neat. Makes sense. They do have a little museum section here, all about like works of glass. Definitely a little bit of a departure from the traditional old-timey village, but some of it's pretty neat. Like kind of Dr. Seussian stuff, and others like it's pretty neat in here. Giant pears. This area is Railroad Junction, and it's pretty neat. They have a whole big turntable kind of thing, and the roundhouse. I instantly told Molly that this is like where Thomas the Tank Engine lives.
Yep.
And she responded, but not as fun. So the Greenfield Village will soon be expanding as they acquire a building, the vegetable building, that was a Detroit Central Market that opened in 1861. And then in 2003, they acquired it. So they're going to put it up now. Kind of fun preserving history. So look at the Edison building over there. You have a really fun looking playground for kids. The village is home to a wonderful antique looking carousel. This is wonderful here. You got a beautiful horse-drawn carriage coming by. And it looks like you can ride in there. Molly,
Yes, yes.
Molly, we found the tavern.
We found it.
I'm very happy to report the tavern is an actual tavern. You get beers, they have like craft beer on draft, old-timey cocktails. These things are flavored drinking vinegars. We actually, for the Michigan apple pie, to make a cocktail called a shrub. And then you can walk around the village with it. The village does have a lot of historical buildings that were moved here. We're in one that was Thomas Edison's in Florida, and it was a laboratory. Got a big covered bridge you walk through. I guess you could probably ride one of the horse-drawn carriages through here as well. The village does have a windmill, and I do want to show off some of the signage here, as outside of every building they've got something like this. It tells you what this was used for and where it came from. So like the Ferris windmill here is the oldest surviving windmill in the United States. It built in the mid-1600s in Cape Cod. I find it interesting, it's not just American history that's preserved here at Greenfield Village. These buildings here, these stone buildings, these are all moved from England. I do just want to make a quick note, between both the village and the Henry Ford Museum, everything is in really, really good condition. The grounds are immaculate, everything's in really, really good shape. It's fun. During the weekend they play like historic baseball here in the afternoon. Building here is really neat. This is a jewelry store. It looks like it has one of those awesome clocks that probably move whenever the hour comes by. It's a historical building here. This is the Wright family house, originally built in 1870 in Dayton, Ohio, and now resides here at the village. Of course, it makes sense with this being the Henry Ford Museum. They've got their share of old-timey cars and the Ford Motor Company.
they go up and
Interesting
down.
here. This is the 15th million
Ready?
Ford.
No.
And that'll do it for our time here at the Henry Ford Museum in the Greenfield Village. It did cost about $40 between the two attractions. I had a good time. You could easily spend a full day here if you really wanted to.
Yes.
There's so much stuff to do. And we didn't do like at the IMAX theater or the factory tour. Molly, did you prefer the village or the museum?
I like the village better. I like the more historical, like hands-on walkthrough, talk to people.
Baby sheep.
experience. Baby sheep. Yes,
I will say, like, both the museum and the village, they're very dry.
they are.
So if you're taking kids, I could see kids being bored with this. But did I enjoy it? Absolutely.
There was a lot of cool historical things that I didn't know we would see.
No, very historical, like the Rosa Parks butt, the JFK death car, the Lincoln death chair. A lot of death in that historical kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then there was some really cool stuff. Like I love seeing the Wienermobile and that crazy McDonald's neon sign. Like those were amazing. Overall, it's a good time. I would definitely recommend coming out here. If you're into some of the stuff, you could spend a lot of time here.
Yes, it's definitely a full day if you're very into some of this stuff.
Absolutely. And that'll do it for our time here at the Henry Ford Museum. If you have any questions or comments, let us know in the comment section below. And thank you very much for watching.